Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to attempt to show you the new copy and paste and select features that are available in Step Program on the S2400. So straight away, if I go into Step Program, you'll see that I'm able to press Shift and use the encoder to select areas of time within this pattern. And from there we can do lots of great things. The easiest way is to simply press Enter when you've got a selection made. This will give you the Selection Actions screen. In here we can modify, transpose, transcribe, shift, cut, copy and erase. I'll come back to some of these later, but we'll just take a quick look at one screen. Most of the screens look very similar. The top couple of rows on the screen allow you to select which tracks the current action will act upon. So here you should be able to see that I've got the availability of altering tracks 1, 2, 3 and 5. And I can simply press the corresponding pads here in order to select or deselect those for an action. Then I can go on and select a particular parameter that I want to modify, for example level. Then I'll change the level value and go down to the modify action. So that's the Selection Actions screen, but there are lots of things we can do just within the Step Program screen. Probably the biggest of these is copy and paste. I can copy the selection by simply pressing the copy button. If I then scroll the cursor to a different location, let's say the start of bar 6 here, I can very quickly paste everything that's copied by double clicking F7. F7, a single click, will bring up the paste screen, which allows me more options and control over how I paste. For example, I can select which tracks to paste. I can transcribe what I'm pasting. In other words, I can paste it to a different track to the one it was copied from. I can do multiple copies. And then there are different paste options. Paste and replace will replace everything that was already there. And by default, that's what happens when you double click F7. So it's a quick shortcut to paste and replace. Paste and merge will merge the clipboard with what is already in the position that you are pasting to. Paste and shift will insert the clipboard and move everything after the cursor along to accommodate it. And paste and add time will do the same thing, but it will lengthen the pattern in order to accommodate that. Now, in many cases, you're probably just going to want to copy and paste one track, and there's a nice shortcut for that too. Let me play this pattern and we'll just have a quick listen and see what we can copy and paste. Okay, so let's say I want to copy and paste this little snare roll that I've got in bar 5 here. So I'm going to press Shift and then use the encoder to select just that little snare roll. Now, because the snare roll is only on pad A1, I don't want to copy and paste any of the other pads. I can do that by pressing the copy button, then pressing A1 to select that pad for copying. Then with my finger still on the copy button, I'm going to use the encoder to move it to the position I want to paste to. And let's say I want to put it in bar 1 here. And with the copy button still held, I'll press pad A1 again to indicate where I want it pasting to. And you can see there that my snare roll has been pasted into bar 1. One thing worth mentioning at this point is that the F5 key, which has always been the loop 1 bar feature that allows me to just loop a single bar, that's whichever bar the cursor is currently in. So if I put the cursor in bar 2, it'll loop that bar. So now we have another option, which is when a selection is made, I can long press on F5 and that will be a loop selection function. Super useful, but what's really nice is if I then move the cursor away somewhere, as long as F5's still lit, the transport will still play that selection that I had. And you can see the looping selection by the thick bar at the top of the time ruler. So that's copy paste. The next thing you might want to do with a selection is erase. By pressing the erase button with a selection, I get an erase selection screen. Again, this is very similar to all the other action screens in that you can choose which tracks to erase, and you have various options. Cut to clipboard will copy whatever you erase to the clipboard so you can paste it somewhere else. You can do a straight erase, and then you can erase and shift either the selected tracks or all tracks. So that means that all the events after the portion that you erase will shift to close the gap. And finally, there's a remove time function, which will shorten the pattern. Again, we've got some shortcuts to erase, so you don't always have to go into that screen. By pressing erase and enter, I can erase everything that's in that selection. Now you'll see here that actually there is one long gated note on pad A2 there that hasn't been deleted, and that's because the start of that note was actually in bar 1 and I'd only selected bar 2. So the start of any notes that are in the selection will be deleted. I'll just undo that. So that was erase all, and then finally we've got erase. You press erase and a single pad to just erase that pad from the selection. Okay, so the last big shortcut is a feature called Shift, and that allows you to move whatever is in the selection. So let's say I select the first half of bar 2 here. F4 is the Shift key, and you'll see there that all the notes that were in that selection will start to blink. And what I can do now is use the encoder to move those notes around, and you can move them as far as you like through the pattern. You can also do this whilst the transport is running. Now obviously sometimes you're not going to want to shift everything that's in the selection, so again I can make a selection, and this time I will press F4 and pad A1 simultaneously, and now I'm just shifting pad A1 from the selection. You can see there's 3 notes there being moved backwards and forwards. For me, Shift is such a nice feature just to be able to make small adjustments to particular bars or particular parts of your pattern. It's so easy to come up with nice variations by just shifting a note or two here and there. I'll say one more thing about copy, shift and erase, and that is that there are some improvements even without a selection being made. So for example, the copy paste shortcut that I showed you earlier will work without a selection. So let's say I want to copy this note from pad A1 and paste it somewhere else. I can hold the copy button, press A1, and the one event under the cursor from track A1 will be copied to the clipboard. Holding down copy with my left hand, I can then scroll along, find a place to paste it, and press A1 again, and that note will be pasted. So it's a very fast way of copying and pasting a single note from one place to another. This also works with erase. This was available in previous firmwares, but just as a reminder, we can click on erase and click a single note to erase it. Or if I line up somewhere with multiple notes, I can press erase and enter, and all notes underneath the cursor will be erased. Shift again gets a similar treatment, so any items under the cursor when I press F4 will be open for shifting, and if I press F4 and a single pad, then just that note will be shifted. So let's quickly go back and take a look at those selection action screens. If you want to do anything more complicated than the shortcuts that I've just shown you, the selection action screen is where you'll do it. So you make a selection, press enter, and then you can perform a variety of functions on those notes. So as I said earlier, every screen has the track selection in the first 2 rows. You can either select all tracks, which is ticked by default, or you can simply press a track to remove it and add it to the selection. The modify page allows you to set the value of all notes within that selection on the selected tracks. So you can set gate length, level, pitch, filter mode, filter cutoff, and filter resonance. And you can do multiple of these at the same time. So if I wanted all these notes to have a cutoff of 1500 or so and a high resonance, I could do that at the same time and then just click modify, and every note on tracks 1, 2 and 3 would then have those cutoff and resonance values. Transpose allows me to change the pitch or the level. Now transpose will change the pitches relatively. So if you've got, for example, a bass line, you can transpose that entire bass line without losing the relative pitches of each note next to each other. And in here we can do the level as well. So if you've got, for example, a snare roll, but you want to bring the entire snare roll to be a little bit louder, you can do that without affecting the relative levels of each note. Transcribe is a useful function that allows you to move notes from one track to another. You can do this in the paste window, but it's also available here in a slightly different format. So, for example, if I want everything on A1 to now be on track A8, I hit transcribe, and you can see there that everything A1 is now empty, but those notes are now on A8. Shift we've already looked at, but this is just a different way to select certain tracks within the selection and then begin shifting them. So just like before, I would then use the encoder to move those notes left and right. One thing I didn't mention previously, by the way, is that you can change the quantize level and move notes depending on whatever quantize, and you can do that whilst you're shifting. So if I realize that actually I'm on too coarse a quantize, I can go in finer, say 30 seconds, and move those notes in 30-second increments. When you're shifting, by the way, back will cancel the shift and leave the notes where they originally were. Enter or another press of F4 will commit the notes to their new position. And then the other options in selection actions are cut, which will simply cut all the notes from the selection and place them in the clipboard ready for pasting. Copy is the same as pressing copy, and erase will give you the erase screen, which is the same as pressing erase. And that's it. Those are the selection actions and copy paste in step program, now available in the new software update. One last thing to say is that if ever you're in trouble or you're not quite sure how to do anything, just as a reminder, each screen has its own help page. So you just a long press on the 0 key, the help key, will bring up the help menu for that particular page and will give you lots of information on what it can do. Enjoy the new software update. Thank you very much.